please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, the Sunday night / Monday morning version if you're on the East Coast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always by Jeff Erickson. Actually, he's back, so it was not as always. We had a special guest, Vlad Settle, last week, but Jeff is back this week, so happy to see that. We're gonna do a little spring training talk, a little news and notes, but mostly we're gonna talk about attacking categories in a Roto league, kind of past pick 200. We're talking about a lot of guys that if you're you're through your first 10 rounds of a draft and you realize you need batting average, you need saves, you need whip, whatever it may be, we're going to kind of highlight some guys that you can draft to kind of address those weaknesses you're trying to get your balance categories to go along. But Jeff, first of all, welcome back. How's everything for you?
Good. Staying busy these days. Had first beat Jeff Erickson on Wednesday. That was great. I got, TGFBI starts tomorw or
right,
today
yeah.
By the time people listen to this.
What? Where are you picking? I think early on, right?
Second.
Oh, nice.
It was I was 13th, to get a slot, but it was my second preference. So I got the second pick. So I wanted an early pick. I have not drafted earlier than 8th yet this year.
You guarantee a Nick Castellanos there. That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I would have gotten Votto had I gotten first, but
there you go. Hey, spoiler alert, he's coming up later. Yeah. And so it's again, if everybody could please rate or review the podcast, that'd be great. Also, we do appreciate that. Obviously, we're getting to the last day of February. We're getting to really heavy draft season. I haven't drafted yet. My TGFBI is my first draft, so it's gonna be fun to kind of jump in tomorrow, and then I'll have a bunch of NFBC drafts coming up. So March is always one of my favorite months of the year. Yeah,
I love it. I've got Tout Wars starts tomorrow as well with the draft and hold on Tuesday. We've got a new Tout Wars league. It's a 12 team with new categories. Todd Zola and I are going to be doing the broadcast for that on Sirius XM. Next week we got Raz Bowl, I think it is, or Raz Slam, I think it is.
I think that starts next Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday the 8th.
Yeah. It's a cut line points kind of format.
Yeah, and I got to bone up on that again because I don't play that many points leagues. So, and it's best ball also, if I recall correctly. So
it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, it's draft season. Spring training games started. Life is good.
Yep. Yeah, we actually had games on today. I flipped on the TV. I saw an A's game on TV, which is kind of cool to see. There were a few fans in the stands, which is also fun to see. It seems like they are trying to experiment a little bit. It sounds like about 1,000 fans a game, that sort of thing. It's crazy. The Arizona spring training, all the teams, there's 16 teams there now. They all have sold out their complete allotment of tickets for the whole month. It's kind of wild. I mean, obviously, you have 10% of normal fans or whatever it is, but still pretty wild. They all sold out for the whole month.
It's kind of. Did you ever see the South Park episode where Cartman gets all the inherits this wealth or of some sort and buys an amusement park, and he buys it just for himself, but then he has to he has to hire a security guard, so he has to allow one guest per day, and then he needs to to repair things, so he needs to allow 4 guests per day and all that. He's creating this demand for you can't enter my amusement park. People are dying to get in. That's like the owners in spring training.
It is weird. Dodgers lawn tickets are going for $200 on the weekends. It's just insane.
It's ludicrous.
Don't pay $200 to go to a spring training game, please.
Yeah, please don't. Especially when they cut it after 6 innings and they have innings end at random times and all that. There's a lot of notes on Twitter about that.
The Cardinals keep figuring out ways for Jack Flaherty to throw less innings. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Today
I think he threw a certain number of pitches and they just ended the inning. It was great. So let's talk about a few news and notes. I don't want to talk about spring training. I want to talk about spring training in a second, but not exactly stuff that happened today. But Dinelson Lamet is a guy that we've thrown around his name a bunch. Everybody's worried about him getting hurt. Threw a side session on Friday, reported no soreness. He's one of those guys that the stuff is there. He's really good to watch. He's fun. He's talented. But it's hard to not watch him pitch and not think any pitch could be the end of the season. What are you doing with him in a draft at the moment?
Regretting when someone gets a bargain. And I don't get him. And if he goes at price, fine. That's fine. I'm just not paying the price for him.
Yeah, it's just so tough. I mean, in that range, he's like a 7th round pick in a 15-teamer. There's just so many other guys you can take that don't have the ticking time bomb in their arm. And he's really good last year, 2.09 ERA in 69 innings and a huge strikeout rate, 35% strikeout rate. The dude's really good, but it's hard not to think that it's hard to think he makes it through a whole season, a whole 6-month season.
Yeah, the PRP is your screaming at you warning sign, and then just the missing the playoffs last year. I mean, given that what was at stake for the Padres, and he couldn't go, it just makes me a little worried. And of course, his history too. I mean, the upside is so readily apparent. Scott Pianowski got a pretty good bargain on him in labor, and we're all like, good job, Scott. I just couldn't pull the trigger. Right. The fact is, I couldn't pull the trigger. Even though I think even my ranking had him like at that area. But as we've talked about before, when you have a guy ranked at a certain level, that means and he goes at where you've got him ranked, means you're not getting him because you're obviously taking other people that you have ranked higher at that point. So, yeah, I just don't think I'm going to end up with him too frequently. I wish him well, and I hope that I'm proven wrong. But it could be a Tanaka situation where he's got that piano wire thread hanging, keeping his elbow together there. But I'm skeptical.
And the thing is, like, as we talk about, the first name Jeff your head is Tanaka, but it's kind of scary. That's like the one name we could think of where it actually like worked out and he hung on. And even then he wasn't all that great, but he just, he was the one guy that you could think of that actually made it through that. There's a lot of guys that, 2 months later, they're getting Tommy John. So it's concerning. I don't think I'll be touching with a price either. He'd probably have to slip pretty far. I'd probably have to feel a little squirrely to grab. Maybe in a 12-teamer, I'd be a little more willing to do it. I think it's tough in the main event to do it in the 7th round right now.
Yeah, I don't think that's what his price is recently.
I'm looking at from February 7th. The ADP is 97.
Okay, I stand corrected again.
I looked it up right. I looked it up right.
Stand corrected, by the way, too.
I looked it up right before I said that. Is the only reason.
Yep.
But he's got a huge range though. Like even in the last 3 weeks, his range is 50 to 168. Like that's a gigantic range at that price.
So my ranking's at 157. I'll take him near his max.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's never getting there in the leagues I'm in.
And throwing him with no soreness, maybe people get a little more interested in him. Sticking in San Diego, Tommy Pham. Had the stabbing over the offseason. That scar was nasty. You hear the quotes from him. He's like, if they told me I wasn't as muscular, I would have been paralyzed and all this weird stuff. And it's just all the quotes were a little bit strange. He says he's 80% physically, but he started the first spring training game today. So obviously he's out there and good enough to play baseball. How do you deal with something like this? Like, it feels like people are drafting him thinking that he's fine. But his quotes were a little bit concerning considering I kind of thought he was back to normal. I mean, it's not right all the way there yet.
Yeah, and in fact, usually you get this bravado from players saying, I'm 100%, I'm ready to go. He said he's at 80%. When a player is honest like that, you got to take him at his word at face value. He's not at 100%. I took him in beat Jeff Erickson over the last week, because I got Trey Turner in the first round, and I was pretty light on speed. I was like, I really could use another stolen base guy, and there's not too many in that range, around 10 or 11 overall, 10th or 11th round overall in a 12-teamer. Okay. At least guys that can hit. I got Leody Taveras later on, and who knows if he can hit. But there's guys like that available. But you only want one of those guys. You don't want like a team full of those guys to make up your speed. But
did you see Pham's quote about money after the stabbing?
I did not see that. No.
He said, if anything, I probably would just spend more money and stop saving as much because if I die, then I feel like I have too much money in the bank and I didn't live enough. So almost dying makes him want to spend more money, which I thought was an interesting takeaway from almost.
It depends on what that means. Is that if it means he's going to a higher class area bar, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I like how you say bar, like we don't know what kind of bar it was. It's a strange quote.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a strange quote. All of a sudden, like he almost died. I was like, I got to spend all my money now. It was very strange. It's I don't know. It was a little bit weird. I think that I'm probably just going to find other guys in that range that I like a little bit more and not have to even think or worry about it.
Yeah. I clearly took him, so I'm willing to take him again for the right price. I probably don't want to have too much exposure to guys like him. Just risk. And I mean by guys that have risk. That's what I mean by guys like him, and not guys that like to hang out at certain establishments.
Get stabbed. Yeah.
Because let's face it, we don't know who those guys are. I mean, we it could be 50% of the player pool as far as we know.
Could be. We know Tommy Phan. We know James Harden, and we got a good start right there. Yeah. Mike Soroka. Apparently, he's doing some fielding drills, looking good, but all the quotes kind of make it seem like we're looking at May 1st. I think is probably a pretty fair statement. So I think they're going to be pretty cautious with him, pretty slow with him. How do you feel about him with the thought that we're probably getting 5 months rather than 6 months?
I mean, wasn't that the expectation all along when he got hurt?
I think so. I think as the spring kind of started, I kind of felt like people maybe thought he was going to get pushed up. There's a little bit of positive news, but I think May 1st is definitely what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think so too. And, the thing is, one thing I like about him is the notion that we probably won't have the DH in the NL this year. He's one of those guys that was highlighted as hurt by the universal DH because he struck out so many pitchers compared to so many hitters. That's not a problem as much anymore. And it's a deader ball, and he's a pitch to contact guy.
And weirdly, on the flip side, though, it might hurt him because he may take an extra couple weeks because he's got a hit and run now. Whereas if he got DH for, he doesn't have to come out of the box. So I wonder if that cost him a couple starts. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I mean, it's not like he's working on his swing.
Yeah, that's true. You don't think he's legging too many doubles into triples?
Probably not.
Yeah, I like Soroka, but the strikeout drop. Obviously it was only 13 innings or whatever it was last year, so I'm not too worried about that. But he's just he's someone that you have to have the right build with your first 2 or 3 stars to be able to take. Because the ERA he's got career 2.86 ERA. I mean, that's a great number. Good, only 214 innings. He's pitched barely in 2 years and a bulk of 1 year, but. I don't know. It's just hard. It's hard to jump in without the starting pitcher. It has to be the right kind of build. I've got to get some pretty big K guys up front to do it.
Yeah,
I do like him as a pitcher.
Yeah, Mike Soroka or Tyler Mahle?
It's a really interesting mix. It probably depends who I have. If I need some strikeouts, it's Mahle, and I'm going to mention him later when we talk about someone else.
Yeah.
Because he was a top 25 strikeout rate guy last year. I knew he was good. I didn't know he's quite that good. I'd probably go Mahle just because he's gonna be ready day one, and I don't want to sit on Soroka for a month. But it's close and depends on who I have the first couple picks.
I'm Mahle too. But I mean, let's face it, Soroka has a lot more command. I mean, and I guess that's it is a pairing issue.
Yes, it is.
Who you have with. Gray Albright from Razzball wrote an article about pairing pitchers. Like, if you got these guys here, you definitely need a whip guy later, or or do you need a K guy later? It's important. Mike Soroka or David Price?
Oh, man.
Two guys that missed a bunch of time last year.
I'm going to go Soroka.
Yeah, so far the crowd is that way too. 173 versus 179. It's not much of a difference, but
I think maybe except for Bauer, I think Dodgers pitchers are going to get moved around and skipped, and I think they're going to ease back on guys, and they're going to have DL stints that are maybe questionable. I just think they have so many arms. I wonder outside of Bauer if we're going to see a lot of guys get moved around, and Kershaw maybe buy a couple starts here and there. Buehler maybe go short a little bit and have May or Gonsolin come in and kind of piggyback with him. I think they're getting a lot of messing around with Dodger starters in April and September would be my guess.
Do you worry about Julio Urias as a result of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think that the price is a little bit better on him, so I'm a little more willing there. But yeah, I think they're going to be careful there just because they're going to be able to. I mean, Granted, the Padres are going to be right there, but both one of those teams, and without expanded playoffs actually matters a lot there because
of course,
if you're playing in, you have to avoid the 1-game playoff. It's way different than having to avoid that first round series. So I think with no expanded playoffs, it helps a little bit for teams that you got to stay on the gas a little bit, but. I just don't think the Dodgers are going to have to stay on the gas in the last month of the season, really. As good as the Padres might be, I just think the Dodgers are a step above.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not going to be playing the Padres like more than 18 games.
And they just have so many. It's not like if they give someone a rest, they're putting someone that's going to lose a game. I mean, they're putting Gonsolin or May in there, and it's just a good option. I mean, they have 7 really good pitchers. It's frightening.
And I was just going to say, I think it presents a buying opportunity for May and Gonsolin.
I do too, actually. I think that those guys are going to end up falling into starts because they're going to just the way they're going to play it. I mean, I think I heard someone say it. Maybe it's during PitchCon. They're going to essentially run a 6-man rotation without doing it. They're just going to kind of finagle it. So at the end of the year, it's going to look like a 6-man rotation, but it'll just be DL stints here and there, skip starts. So they won't do it 6 in a row. But by the end of the year, maybe except for Bauer, it'll kind of look like that.
Yeah, Gonsolin's got a online championship ADP of 224, but that has a range of 169 to 359, 32 drafts. So you can tell. Where there was the Bauer signing and after the Bauer signing, but that's going to drop. I think. I mean, it's pretty wild though that you've got 2 guys that aren't in the rotation right now. They're getting drafted by the 15th round in the main. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
I'm just surprised that 10 teams in that one league passed on him in the 30th round. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Max Scherzer looked good in a Friday bullpen session from the ankle injury. Sounds like he's maybe a week behind, but he's probably one of those guys that probably didn't need that extra week. One of those few pitchers that probably be okay. I think he's gonna be all right. Where are you on Scherzer right now? He's a guy that I think there's a lot of different range of opinions on him coming into 2021.
Yeah, I am behind Kershaw still. ahead of Flaherty.
Okay.
Today didn't help that for Flaherty, but
So
then again, Angel Hernandez didn't help Flaherty either. So
I love the announcers had no problem just ripping on Angel Hernandez.
I know.
I know. Mid-season
Well,
form, they called it. That was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a lightning rod now too. I mean, he's got a lawsuit against MLB. I mean, it's ugly.
So you're not getting Flaherty in any leagues, then, is what you're telling me.
I'm not the Jack Flaherty guy this year.
Yeah.
The thing is, I have him as a keeper in a couple of leagues. So I've already got it. In fact, I think I've got him in 3 keeper leagues, but
he's the toughest guy of that. Like, if you want to call it the first 3 rounds, just use a tier of whatever that 13, 14 pitchers are. Mm-hmm. He's the toughest guy for me to slot in and figure out, just because last year was so weird for them.
There's such a low floor, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, the floor could be the ocean.
And there's a top 3 pitcher ceiling too. I mean, it's just he's really hard to figure out, just because the range of outcomes is huge. And last year, the way the Cardinals season worked out and the way they used him, it was just all very strange. And I mean, he just his fastball got hit. It was a strange season. He's a hard guy for me to figure out in that range. And I probably, when I get someone that's that hard to figure out, I probably just end up taking someone else. Is usually what I do.
Woodruff or Flaherty?
Yeah, a month ago, before I really started getting it, I would have said Flaherty. I think I say Woodruff now.
I think so too. Actually, my projections say otherwise, so maybe not. I don't know. It's close. I was kind of a lower guy on Woodruff because I worry about the innings with him, but I bumped him up a little bit more recently. And
how many innings do you have?
I've got him like 180-ish.
Oh, you're not worried about the innings then?
Yeah, I was before. And I also think
that's high.
It is, especially because the Brewers are kind of like that, and they've got a lot of depth too, sneakily. I might actually, I think I have Woodruff at 14 among starters and Flaherty at 11, but I might adjust that a little bit.
Yeah. I think Woodruff goes 170, and they figure out a way to keep it right in there. But 180, that's a starter too. That's just the Brewers said before the season they're going to go plus 100 on everybody and kind of consider that a cap. So I'm just holding them their word a little bit. I mean, if they're in the race the last 2 weeks, he'll throw an extra start and get to 180. So you're kind of just kind of split there right there. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
Last news and note from the weekend: Miles Mikolas from the Cardinals. We're talking about Jack Flaherty, scratched from his Monday sim game. They said that the quote was, "We're being cautious for now with him." That doesn't sound especially great coming off his injury.
Nope, it sure doesn't. I wasn't really there on him because coming off an injury, and where's the upside anyhow? In terms of strikeouts, It's not there. I've got him like 385. I mean, you're talking about reserve rounds, basically.
Yeah. It's crazy. He's a guy that threw 385 innings between 2018 and 2019. It's kind of an innings horse, but then obviously didn't pitch last year. Mm-hmm. You're right. The strikeout upside is so limited there that it's just, if he's not fully healthy, he's a guy that you don't want to get into. I love that you're using your Masters Cup.
Right now, thanks.
That was beautiful.
You have
like that?
You have a bunch
seamless
of those too,
transition?
Right?
I do.
Here, we'll model it for the audience here. There we go.
Woo. Beautiful. So spring training games have started. I know everybody likes to get excited. Lewis Brinson's bat flipping. Lewis Brinson has 14 spring training home runs. He has 16 regular season home runs. I thought that was a beautiful stat. Good old Lewis Brinson. You guys are hitting home runs. What do you look for in spring training? What is actionable to you? Like, I obviously we don't care what I'll just use a name. We don't care what Ronald Acuna hits in spring training. He's going to start. He's going to lead off. He's going to be good. We don't care if he's 3 for 30 in spring training. But what do you care about? What's actionable to you as we're getting through this month of games?
Counterpoint: Christian Yelich looked lost last summer. Lost, and then he started off 1 for 27 with 12 strikeouts.
True.
Sometimes it matters. Yeah. So I would look for command of the strike zone, first of all. That's one thing. If a guy is striking out a ton, or as a pitcher is walking guys a ton, I might be a little concerned about that. If velocity is down, and it's a little trickier because sometimes a pitcher is working on things.
Right.
Sometimes it's Zach Greinke on the backfield 5 miles an hour slower.
Yeah. Just velocity, velocity in the first week of March probably doesn't worry you, but the last week of March maybe would.
I'd say that's probably true.
Okay.
And the thing is, teams are so squirrely these days, too. I mean, look at the Red Sox a couple of years ago with their starting pitchers. Oh, but look at how that blew up in their face, too. So, haha. But Corey Schwartz had a pretty cool tweet today. There are now 9 spring training facilities that have the TrackMan
nice
stuff in there. So we're going to be better able to manage, including Dunedin, where the Blue Jays are going to be playing. So we'll better be able to track velocity in some places. There was only 2, I think, last year, so they added 7. Most of them are in Florida, unfortunately, but I guess Major League games are going to be in Florida this year, so we should know. That's good to know.
What do you do with like batting order? Obviously you're looking at a guy who's sitting or not, and that doesn't really matter if someone sits. The guy's going to sit a lot of games. What do you do with batting order? Do you think that managers are working on what their batting order might be? Do you think they're just kind of playing around with that? At what point in the spring do you actually like look at a batting order and be like, oh, I wonder if this guy's actually going to hit third this year?
I would say 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Maybe 3. Start paying attention then when you have closer to full lineups.
Yeah.
I mean, today, forget today. That's not going to be any useful. Hey, Kyle Farmer batted leadoff and played shortstop for the Reds. Woo! I posted.
There were people, people looked at Vlad Guerrero hitting 5th in a lineup that didn't have Springer or Teoscar in it and started to think, maybe if those guys are in, he's hitting 7th. But I agree with you. I think you got a couple weeks, let things play out a little bit, see who's healthy, make sure nobody's hurt, that kind of thing. But I think a couple weeks in, you do start to see managers start to think about what their opening day lineup might look like, what their regular lineup might look like. There's a lot of managers now that move things around a lot. I mean,
sure.
I would never look at a Tampa Bay spring lineup and care because they're not going to do anything. They'll do everything differently every day anyway. But with managers that do get in a familiar routine with lineups, I think a couple weeks in, you can kind of see them trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what they like and don't like. I think there is some actionable stuff in there when we get a couple weeks in.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Mike Curlin does a lot of good stuff with lineups on Twitter.
He had a thread today that was like 10 pieces long. That was all the left. It's a beautiful piece. He does a great job with it.
Yeah, he's found a niche, which is cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, people that are looking to get a toehold in the fantasy baseball community, find something. If you think something is underserved in our community, in our industry, fill it. Do it yourself. Go do it.
And that's one of those things that's a pain in the ass to do. But like the fact that he's compiling it in one place, unbelievable. I mean, valuable and something that it's such a pain in the ass I wouldn't have done normally. Be like, I'd probably look at it. But now you can go through one thread, boom, like that. It's a really great service.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, our community is forever is just improvising here and there and creating new things. It's amazing. It's amazing, people, the work that's being done, and just kudos to Mike, kudos to everybody else. Ryan Bloomfield with the Bloom boards are awesome. Yep. I could shout out 50 different people here, so I'll just stop there. But
no doubt. And then what about things with like position battles? Fifth and fourth starters, that kind of thing, closer battles. How much do you play into that? Like you say, you got Archie Bradley and Hector Neris, and one of them gives up 3 runs. At what point do you start to think that obviously these innings do matter for position battles? I mean, the teams have to make a decision based on something. We've got like Isan Diaz and Jazz Chisholm in Miami, and they pretty much said whoever wins the job is going to start at second. Whoever doesn't is going to go down in the minors. So it's just, I mean, that means that this month of stats does matter for some guys.
It does, but just remember that just means it's opening day. It doesn't mean it's final answer either.
Although for closers, opening day is a pretty big damn thing.
Until they blow their first save. But
true. That never happens.
No, never. None of my closers. Mine are fine. Nothing but the best closers.
Right.
But and Archie Bradley has forever got the job no matter where he's at. There's no manager that could ever mess with him. He's fine. Just leave him alone as the closer, people. Specifically Bradley versus Neris. I think it's transparent that Bradley's a better pitcher. What am I missing?
You're spoiling the saves, attacking saves part later, but I think Bradley's better too. I just think that, and I think what helps Bradley is that Philadelphia saw Neris up close last year and walked too many guys. The ERA was bad. Mm-hmm. If that's coming from somewhere else, maybe they suddenly see something in spring. He looks great, but I think that has to stick in your head. It was only 2 months, but it has to stick in their head a little bit. He walked everybody. I think it's Bradley's job to start too. I don't know how much they'll go committee or not, what they want to do there. The fact they're both righties makes me think they just want to probably pick a guy, but I think it's Bradley to start, and I'm kind of bullish on Bradley at the price. I think he's a pretty just a solid pitcher. He's not great. The K rate's never going to be huge, but I think he's just solid.
Yeah, I even think I saw Neris go before Bradley in one draft, which was like, okay. But, just given how badly the bullpen devastated Philly's season last year, too. That's just got to stick in the institutional memory.
It has to. I mean, they've added to it. They added Jose Alvarado, too, and I think they want to use him as the lefty leverage guy. I think they signed Bradley to have him close. I mean, they haven't said that. They've said that they like him. He has the ability to close. Everything they've said makes me think that they are going to do that without actually saying it so far.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that too. And I'm sorry to steal the juice from our later part, but yeah, you're right though. It does matter. But the thing is, they're not closing games in spring. That's the thing. No. That's it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. That's why it's harder. I mean, you have to look at how they're throwing. You have to see if they're up to speed. You have to see if they're like walking the ballpark. But other than that,
we don't see the bullpen sessions where the slider's biting and they're throwing 98 right. And they look great. We just don't. We get some reports and we probably get more than we did last year, but less than we would 2 years ago from beat reporters and stuff. We do have a lot more interviews and stuff. Like last year, spring training was awful for information, obviously for good reason. But yeah. And then like minor injuries, like I don't even worry about that stuff. And for a couple of weeks also, like if someone tweaks something now, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to worry about it too much. If it's a serious injury or like they pull something out 3 weeks, sure. But if someone's missing 3 or 4 days, I don't really worry about that yet. If we get to maybe the third week of March, maybe I'll think about that. But I don't know. I don't freak about injuries quite yet.
Yeah, same with COVID for that matter. Yeah, but although it's funny, some players legitimately were hampered by it. Eduardo Rodriguez is the most notable, but
Yohan Moncada talked about how he was tired the whole season.
Yeah, but Freddie Freeman was near hospitalization with his fever, and then he won the MVP. So
right?
I mean that's why it's like I'm like Frankie Montas. Okay, he's behind right now, but I view that as a buying opportunity in a way. If I was going to buy on him in the first place,
and you never fully want to believe players' quotes, but his have all been pretty good. And it sounds like he was really working hard before he got it, and then feels pretty good now. So yeah, I think as long as I see him kind of looking good at spring games, I'm fine. You're not even factoring that in at this point.
Yeah.
But if we get someone to get to the third week of March, then that becomes obviously a little different because then you're talking about missing the first couple of weeks of the season, and there's a lot of stuff in there. So let's jump into that. We're going to talk about attacking categories. Your first 10, 12 rounds of a draft. Who are you getting? Say the second half of a 12-teamer, the last 2/3 of a 15-teamer. Who can you go to attack categories? But before we get to that,
please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.